And we're back, episode 4, Ed on the Bed. I'm Ed, I'm on a bed, and this is my podcast. Went ahead and I just wanted to get this one out. No worries, I know what I said. I was going to try to get my girl Silvana on this, but I still got to work that schedule out. So in the meantime, I still wanted to get a podcast out, and here I am. Let's start off with a couple things. I wanted to go ahead and just clarify, but before we do, intro song of the episode, Bobby Brown, My Prerogative. Um, Great song. I mean, this is when he was at his top ego. I mean, I'm a big R&B guy, and there's two kinds of R&Bs. There's the R&B where the guy's really sad or really, you know, he really loves a romantic, hopeless romantic. Let's say like a who could I use an example as a hopeless romantic? Like Babyface, he's a hopeless romantic. Like guys like that. And then you got other R&B guys who pretty much are just letting you know. I mean, they'll mix it up. They'll go into the hopeless romantic part, but there's these guys that in R&B that are just they're letting you know they're down to fuck. And uh, if that song doesn't do a good job of getting him there, then I don't know what will. Bobby Brown's one of those guys. If anything, he's like Chris Brown right now. So it's interesting to see that they both have the same last name. But Bobby Brown had problems back then with like I don't know if he ever. Well, I mean I knew he had problems with the law and stuff, but and he was known kind of as a bad boy. So I guess he has that in common with Chris. Um, as for Chris, I mean I don't. I think everyone still talks about what he did, but and as much as I don't agree with that, his song plays in the club and I'm jamming to it. So when you got talent, I guess you got talent. As for everything else, I still frown upon. But a song's just a song, and I'll enjoy the song when I can. Um, Anyways, this kind of goes into what I wanted to talk about, which was I kind of well I did touch upon it on the last episode about stereotypes, and the one thing about stereotypes, I went into the Argie male stereotype of and again I know stereotypes don't apply to everyone and it's kind of wrong, but there is some truth to at least some of them. And the RG male excuse me, the RG male stereotype of, especially in among a group of other RG males, is this attitude of just who needs to prove they need to prove to each other who's the alpha male, which is, I mean, if you already got to prove among your group of friends or your pack, whatever you want to call it, who the alpha male is, then you're already on a bad start. You know already. You know already, and you don't got to question it. And if you do, then, I mean, do it on your own time, but don't go out in public and, try to be wild or crazy or ruin basically everyone else's night for whatever show you got to take place in. And I know we can't help it. I think it's in our nature to want to be the alpha male, but I don't know. I'm like when I go out with my group of friends, like I don't care. uh, um, I might get a little bossy at times, but I don't take it as me being the alpha male. I'm kind of fine being who I am, I guess. Yeah, I am. But I did go deep into the whole stereotype of the RG and how they're very alpha male. they all try to be the alpha male, and at the end they all end up failing, trying to achieve it. As I mentioned, I'll go out at night and we'll go out on pub crawl and we'll have a bunch of RG males and they'll all try to prove to each other, oh, I'm the baddest, or I'm the coolest, I can do this, and they're so busy doing that at the end of the night they all leave together. They don't pick up a girl, and a few of them are probably sloppy drunk. Another few probably have a black eye or something, and you wonder to yourself, was the night worth it? Maybe it's one of those things where a few years from now they'll laugh about it, but I don't know. I don't see the point of ruining a good night, a potentially good night, over just stupidity like that. But I guess it also shows, like, I'm not one to not be a part of that, because at a certain age I was the same way. Not at least when I go to clubs. At least I don't hope I ever been. But in high school, I was that way. I in high school, and I still have that persona, but I still had, and I don't know if you can describe this as a stereotype, but it was pretty known, but at a certain point, that I was an asshole, and I was always considered an asshole. And nowadays I'm still considered an asshole to a certain point, but I was always an asshole by the way I treated people. And it's not that I did it on purpose. It's not that I thought, like, this is what, this is the cool thing or whatever. It's bad to say this, but it just came off naturally. And when it comes off naturally, being an asshole, you kind of work on not trying to be perceived as one. And I think I did a pretty good job maturing a bit, but like I said, I'm still considered an asshole in most circles at sometimes. So, oh well. But in high school, especially, my group of friends and I, there was at one point we called each other the A team, because the A stood for asshole. So we were the A team, and that was our thing. Just how could we out asshole each other, and that was the whole thing. The one thing that like, well, let me give an example of just how I was an asshole. Like, there was this one teacher, for instance, man, I forgot her first name, and as y'all know, I like calling my teachers by their first name, but it's been a while, so you gotta forgive me. I had this one teacher, her name was Miss Chasen, and she taught, I think she was she was teaching Spanish, and oh man, we had this class was, you'd walk into this class, and this class was filled with just troublemakers. Basically, a class filled with assholes, and several girls, but a whole bunch of assholes. And I mean, this class was basically the usual suspects, and what I meant by the usual suspects is there was scenarios that happened throughout the school, throughout my tenure in high school, where maybe something was, some school property was defaced or damaged, or something went missing or stolen, or something happened, some sort of prank or something happened that people should be getting in trouble for, and they didn't find out who it was. The 10 usual suspects were all called into the dean's office. I was one of those 10 usual suspects, and so were 9 other kids. These 9 other kids and myself were all in the same grade as well. So it was we'd always see each other. We all knew who we were, and we'd all get along. And to walk into this classroom and see the usual suspects all in one class, it just made we knew we had, as soon as we saw who was in this classroom, we knew we were going to take over. We just knew it. And I mean, to give you an example, we were we would, in the middle of the class, just we would orchestrate this. But we in the middle of the class, she would be teaching, and one of us would applaud, and we would just stand up and just play. It was like we were playing musical chairs, and we just changed chairs real quick, and all just sat somewhere differently in the middle of the class while she's giving a lecture. Or I was more of an asshole, and I ended up stealing. I'd 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 go through a teacher's desk and steal her cigarettes because I know she'd smoke cigarettes, and I wouldn't tell her that I stole her cigarettes, but I would tell her, like, I would pretty much reference how bad smoking is, and pretty much hinting that I stole her cigarettes. Um, there was times where I'd get detentions in that classroom, and you'd have, the student copy that I would receive, and then the teacher's copy that she would keep. And I would figure out a way. I'd know where she would put the teacher's copy of the detentions notice, so I would steal those. So then I'd never show up to detention, and then the next day she'd reprimand me for not going, and I would tell her that she never gave me a detention notice, and she'd go crazy looking for those detention notices, and she'd never find them. And so there was never proof that I was given a detention. Um, that's pretty asshole of me, yeah. But man, we were just horrible to this woman. We were extremely horrible to this woman. The things we would do, and we would just not let her teach. And after a while, you could tell it was taking a toll on her. Like, it was the poor lady. And it's not that we did it because we hated her. We did it because we could get away with it. And we're private school kids. We're all pretty upper middle class kids. So kind of stuck up, and we're just full of ourselves. And one day, I go into class, and we all go into class, and the Miss Chasen's not there, but 5 other teachers are, and they're all very serious, and they all tell us to sit down, and they tell us, look, they pretty much said, look, we don't know what you guys are doing to her, but right now she's in the teacher's lounge, and she doesn't want to come over here. She's crying because she just can't put up with you guys anymore, and it's really bothering her, and it's really, like, it's very disrespectful what you guys are doing. She's just trying to do her job. She's just trying to earn a living, and you guys are not letting her, and that's a total lack of respect for her and for any teacher, and that's very messed up. And just hearing that, we all kind of felt bad, and especially hearing that she was crying and everything, and to know that and to hear that, it's like, wow, like, damn, I didn't think I was gonna go ahead and be and I never took that into consideration, and I think that was always messed up on my part, and I think on all our parts. So we're all feeling pretty bad, and then in the middle, while all the 5 teachers are kind of like talking to us, the door swings open, just violently, and in comes Coach Zacchio. Coach Zacchio comes in and just slams the door right behind him. Bah! Let me tell you about Coach Zacchio. Coach Zacchio is this huge, fat Italian guy. He could pull off the Italian mafia look, and he was the head coach of the football team in our high school. And the dude was known to be tough, as is any high school football coach. You got to think, any guy, especially in high school, any guy who's got to, like, train and get everyone to be on par with him, and that all these guys are athletes, and so athletes are just filled with testosterone, and there's these, like, just testosterone young dudes who, if you don't train them well, they're gonna go crazy. They're gonna go wild, and they're all again bringing up the topic of alpha male. They all want to be alpha males. So imagine you trying to get everyone to be on par and be on the same team. That's what a high school coach does, and they do it however they can. And in most cases, it's through discipline, and most cases it's through fear. And Coach Zacchio was pretty much well known to be one of these guys that he was tough on everyone, and like no one ever disrespected Coach Zach. And here he is in the fucking classroom, and everyone just sees how pissed he is, and he just starts yelling, and he goes, "I don't give a fuck who you think you are, who any of you think you are. I fucking just came from the teacher's office, the teacher's lounge, and just saw this poor woman crying, and she's afraid to come into this classroom because of you motherfuckers. What the fuck do you guys think you're doing? This woman's just trying to do her job, and you pieces of shit are not letting." The guy just goes off on us for a good 5 minutes, and he goes, "Oh, and I'm gonna fuck." For a good 5 minutes, just ranting, just telling us off, and then he goes, "But I came here to talk to one person especially." And now the 10 of us, the 10 usual suspects, we're all like, this is fucking a Russian roulette right now, because we all know this guy could be talking about any one of us. And we're all thinking, man, we all kind of were assholes to her, so let's hope it's not who it is. And he goes, "I want to talk to the motherfucker who calls himself the Cat Man." Again, that was my nickname back in high school, and that wasn't the nickname I gave myself. It was a nickname that was bestowed upon me because I had once threatened to kill one of my teacher's cat in a joke, and the teacher took it serious, and I ended up getting suspended for that. In case you didn't hear the story before. But anyway, so he goes, "I want to know who the fuck calls himself the Cat Man." And I really couldn't react to that. I was sitting all the way in the back of the classroom, of course. And I really could not react to that. I was just looking down to the ground, and I was like somewhere else. I was somewhere else. I wasn't even in the moment. And he just goes, "Who the fuck is Catman?" And everyone in the classroom just turns around and looks at me with their jaws dropped, like open. Everyone, and all the teachers, because the teachers knew my nickname as well, so all the teachers are looking. Everyone's looking at me, while Zacchio is just scanning the classroom, trying to see who the fuck is gonna raise their hand to this. So I go ahead, and it went. Just the pressure of everyone just looking at me, it was just enough to like, it's me. And he goes, "Well, Catman, I want you to meet the Fat Man." Who the fuck? He tells me, "Okay, come up here." So I go right up to him, and he gets in my face, and he tells me, "Catman, I want you to know something. If anything happens to any of my pets at my house, whether it's my dog, my cat, if I find a cockroach dead, if I find an ant dead, I'm blaming it on you, and I'm coming after you. And I'm going to beat the shit out of you." And I know that's the kind of threat that you look at nowadays and you think, man, a teacher probably couldn't get away with saying. But let's be real, this is, like I said, a high school football coach. These guys this is their language all day, every day. And when they say they could beat the shit out of you, they could beat the shit out of you. If it's not them, it's one of his players. So I totally understood what he was saying, and I pretty much at that moment, like, I just froze. I pretty much just froze at that moment. And he's like, "Now I want you to go outside and wait for me." So I'm like, oh fuck. So I go outside the classroom, and I'm waiting for him. In the meantime, he stays like a good 5 minutes more, just yelling at everyone in that classroom, and I hear things slamming and everything. You have the other classrooms, like the classrooms next to the classroom we were in. We have the teachers peeking their heads out to see what's going on. Students are walking by, asking me what's going on. I'm telling them, just keep walking. Just keep walking. You don't want to be here. Just keep walking. I don't even want to talk about it. Just keep walking. No, Eddie, come on, man. What's going? Just keep walking. Keep walking. I don't even want to talk about it. Just keep walking. Door swings wide open violently again. Slams right behind them. Zaccheo just comes up to my face, takes a deep breath. And then he goes to me, just very calmly, "Now I know you. I know who you are. I remember you from the track and field." And it's true because he also at the time was one of the head coaches for track and field and cross country. And I had tried out and I did well, but this was my freshman year and this is when I failed all my classes because they were all honors classes. So my GPA wouldn't allow me to be in sports. And he goes, "I remember you. And you seemed like a good kid. You seemed like a good kid back then. I don't know if you changed or anything, but what the fuck are you doing, man? This woman's just trying to, this woman's just trying to, get a paycheck and live her life, and she's not even mean to you guys. Like, just let her do her job. It's one of the easiest classes. You guys are a bunch of idiots. All of you are Spanish speakers, and this is a Spanish class. Like, how hard could it be? You guys are just being idiots. Just enjoy the class. It's one of the easiest classes you guys probably have, and just relax." And he made sense, and he's like, "Look, I just want you and make sure everyone else apologizes to her, okay?" And I'm like, "All right, sure, no problem." So he leaves. He leaves. I go back into the classroom. The 5 teachers that were in there stayed there for the rest of the classroom with us, just kind of just talking to us, and because Miss Chasen was not coming back to the classroom that day. That's how in bad shape she was. And the next day when we saw her, we all apologized to her. Needless to say, 2 weeks later, she quit and she went to another job. Not because we were assholes to her, but I guess she just was already, the damage was done and she left. So they replaced her with one of my favorite teachers, Grafton Ambrose. Grafton, who was the same guy who gave me my nickname. And Grafton's American. Like, Grafton, he speaks Spanish, but it's a pretty bad Spanish. Like, everyone in that classroom spoke better Spanish than he did. So it was pretty funny that they threw him in there with all of us as our replacement Spanish teacher. And he walks in and he sees all of us. He sees this classroom and he just laughs. The first thing he sees when he sees what class he inherited, he just starts laughing and goes, "You idiots. You guys are all a bunch of idiots. How did they put all of you in one classroom?" Like, he just laughed. And luckily for Ambrose, we all get along with him, so we didn't have any problems in that class. But there was only two other situations where the usual suspects were in the same class. And very interesting. One of them was when was our world religion class. And our world religion class was taught by this guy named David Masters. And David, he was very eccentric, to say the least. He was very conspiracy theory kind of guy. He was very, he believed in stuff that maybe you shouldn't be mentioning or talking about in a high school scenario. When it came to, I guess, government propaganda and, New World Order kind of stuff. And so, yeah, this is the guy who's also teaching us other religions. And it's interesting because we did go to a Catholic high school, but the class was supposed to be so that we learn other major religions of the world. So we know them and we can understand them, and if anything, maybe if Catholicism isn't our thing, we would be interested in something else. I guess, I don't know. I'm sure that wasn't the case. I'm sure it's more of a thing to show why Catholicism is better. I think that was probably the game plan. But David Masters was not following any game plan, and trust me, that dude was all he promoted every other religion there was as best as he could, which was cool because this was one of these things where we would take field trips to synagogue, and you'd get to learn about Jewish culture. You take a field trip to a mosque, and you learn about Muslim culture. We went to I don't even know what they're called, a Hindu temple and a Buddhist temple. We went to all these different religions, and the craziest place I went to that he took us to was a Hare Krishna center, where I don't know if you guys know much about Hare Krishnas, but those are the dudes that like shave their head. They're kind of dressed crazy. They're always in a group, and there were like tambourines and singing and hopping around and dancing and trying to pass out flyers to you. And you go to their center, and I'll tell you this: it's as cultish as of cult I've ever seen. And when you see movies about cults, I don't want to bash. I'm sorry if you're a Hare Krishna or you know someone that's a Hare Krishna, but you guys are pretty cultish. At least what the operation I saw, what was going on, it was pretty cultish to me, where everyone kind of lives on the compound, and everyone's like, no one gets to dress up like a certain way. Everyone's got to dress up the same, and everyone's got like something to do at the Hare Krishna Center. Like everyone's got a menial task or job to do. And when we went there for their daily, I guess, I don't know if it's a mass or a daily just teaching or showing, but basically it was 5 hours of meditation, just meditation. So you got to sit in a meditation pose, and everyone's just umming the whole time. And I'm very open-minded, and I could do it for maybe an hour or two. But when you reach hour 3, hour 4, and everyone's still umming all around you, you're just looking at your watch, and you're just saying, get me the fuck out of here. Like, you're there because, you're getting extra credit or whatever, and you're learning, but you're not learning anything. I mean, I'll find my third eye in my own time. Thank you. I don't want to sit next to a whole bunch of cult people who are just humming in my ear, and that's basically what was going on there. And then once the 5 hours are up, everyone just gets up and starts dancing. So they start dancing to like rhythmic tambourines and drums, like it's a drum circle all of a sudden. But by this time you've already ummed so much that you're just tired. You don't want to dance. And I think that's the trick. Like, they tire you so much with the umming and the meditation that now they try to exert you dancing to the point where you get tired physically as well. And I think that's how they brainwash you. I think I figured out their trick. And then later on, they have like this buffet of food where you just eat, and it's their dinner time. And you go through this cafeteria, and this cafeteria basically has food that's like, if you ever learned about cults, like they feed you certain kinds of food that are more prone to keep you brainwashed. And I remember David showed us all these movies and taught us everything, and it was the same food. I wish I could remember. I just remember seeing that it was the same food, and that I did not eat any of it. I just did not want to even touch it. As hungry as I was not going to eat any of it, and I was not going to be brainwashed. And so that was my experience with that. But yeah, this is basically the kind of class this guy teaches. And then I remember he also taught us about voodoo, and being from New Orleans and living in Miami, you realize to respect voodoo. And David was married to a Haitian woman. And I know he also had lived in Haiti for a little bit. So David had this tape, and I don't know, the rumors went as far as that he was even there to film it, but who knows. And the tape was known as Bronco Betty, and it's pretty disturbing. it's basically a voodoo ritual going on, and it's a drum circle, another drum circle scenario, and everyone's just dancing, just and like just it's just a whole bunch of drums, and everyone's just dancing and really getting into it, and then people start chanting, other people start talking in tongues, everyone's passing around like this bottle of rum that they're all drinking from, so it seems kind of harmless, and then 20 minutes into it, a bull comes in, someone brings in a bull into the room, like a live actual adult bull with horns and everything, brings it straight into the middle of the room. This is like a big banquet hall kind of place, and now everyone's just dancing around the bull and petting it and touching it and everything, and we're all wondering what the fuck is gonna happen here. Sure enough, two dudes show up with machetes and just start chopping its head off, while there's this one woman chanting right in front of it, and the blood's splatting all over the place, and they're like, everyone that's by the bull is like touching the blood and just like I guess like smothering themselves in the blood, and they're all preaching, and there's this one woman who seems to get almost orgasmic with the blood, and she kind of starts rubbing the blood everywhere on her, and that's why the video is called Bronco Betty, and it was named because for some reason he decided to give that woman that nickname. And yeah, it's not the kind of video you show to a whole bunch of high school kids. In fact, he got into trouble with the school board because of it, and he was actually suspended for a while, and he came back, and he still showed that video. He just didn't care. He just knew that he just knew when to show it, basically, because he knew what kind of students would rat on him for showing the video and which ones wouldn't. So he still would show it, and I remember him showing it like in my class as well, and it was just, man, like, it's one of those things where you're just like, wow. I know it's religion, and like I said, I completely respect voodoo. I've seen shit and I've experienced shit that I can't explain, so I know not to mess with certain things. But yeah, that video is a little too much, and so that's world religion class. And when we all realized that we were in this class, and since he had already had problems with the school board and he's butt heads with a lot of administration, a lot of people in administration, and we saw that 10 of us were all in this class, we realized, all right, we're in this class because they want us to do what we did with Miss Chasen. Like, there was no doubt about it. And as much as I didn't really get along with David either, so it's not like it wasn't that hard for me to not be an asshole in this classroom. I didn't get along with him because he was very preachy about his conspiracy theories, to the point where it was very annoying. I have my views, and I don't need someone forcing their views upon me. I remember he once showed us this movie where it's this weird 1980s movie where like this dude moves to Brazil with his family, like his wife and his like 3-year-old kid, and he's hired by some company to build like a dam in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. So one day he's there in the Amazon, and he's like looking at the plans and everything, and his son gets lost in the Amazon, just gets lost, and the kid gets found by like some indigenous tribe that no one really knows about, and so the kid grows up in the tribe and everything, and he becomes an adult, and once he becomes an adult is around the same time that the dam's being filled, is finished being built, and he kind of discovers the dam, and by discovering the dam he also discovers his dad and everything, and he realizes that that this dam is going to destroy his tribe's way of life, because they run out of water because the fucking river doesn't reach to where they're at, or some bullshit like that. And so with the help of a shaman and also the help of his dad, they destroy the dam so then his tribe can go ahead and survive and everything. And you know, David was trying to teach us he gave us a test on that movie, and he tried to teach us like how corporate greed is wrong and all this, and what did we learn from the movie that we learned was bad, basically, was one of the questions of the test. And I failed, and he gave me an F, but I thought my answer was pretty good. My answer was basically, how dare that tribe only had 20 people, that dam was going to power the city of Sao Paulo or something in Brazil, where there's hundreds of thousands of people living. They could help power hospitals and schools and houses and everything. And these motherfuckers who are running around naked in the forest are too busy thinking about themselves. That's rude. That's fucking rude to me. And I thought that was a great answer. He thought I was being a smartass. He failed. He gave me enough for that test, and from that point on, it was war with me and this guy. So yeah, he'd always give me the tensions, and but there was one class. There was one day I remember that we were all there, and some kid who wasn't even a part of the 10, who wasn't a part of the usual suspects, some kid just goes ahead and he brought a stink bomb to the classroom. And I don't know if you've ever been around the stink bomb or smelled a stink bomb, but the smell that it usually is, unfortunately I've been around 2 or 3 stink bombs, and the smell that it gives out is the smell of rotten eggs, vile, puke, and then each one, it kind of depends. Usually it's something just very toxic. It's the kind of shit that I'm sure they use in war. So to use it as a prank somewhere is just fucking rude and just totally inappropriate. And sure enough, this dumbass who, I don't know if he was trying to show off or what, he brings in a stink bomb. At the time I didn't know, we found out later who it was, but he brings in a stink bomb and just snaps it in the classroom and just lays it out. And as soon as I got a whiff of it, I'm the first one out of that classroom. Everyone smells it, everyone's coughing, and David's telling, no, let's open up the windows, let's open up the doors, and I'm like, no, I'm out of here. I just storm out of the classroom and everyone just follows me. And man, it was just horrible. You could not be in that classroom. And sure enough, because the 10 usual suspects were in that classroom, the 10 usual suspects all got called into the dean's office. So it's David, Sam, which is the dean, Sam Lilly, and the principal. Yeah, I think the principal was there, Brother Anthony. I don't know his last name or whatever. Everyone just knew him as Brother Anthony because he was a Franciscan monk. Note, by the way, Brother Anthony was later arrested several years later, in an undercover male escort sting. So that's very interesting. But yeah, at the time, the 3 of them are in the dean's office trying to figure out who it was, and they were playing the game where they brought us in one by one, and what they would do is they would be like, all right, the other kids told us who it was. We know what happened. Just tell us what happened, and we'll take it easy on you. Just tell us what happened and we'll take it easy on you. We just don't lie to us. Tell us the truth, and everything will be fine. And sure enough, none of us knew who had brought the stink bomb, what was going on. So none of us, we all said no, and it just pissed them all off. Like, they just thought, man, these guys are good. These guys don't want to admit to it. The only one motherfucker, this dude named Uvaldo, they bring him in and they ask him the same thing. All right, Uvaldo, who was it? They told him the same thing. All right, everyone else confessed. Everyone else told us what happened. Just confess and everything will be all right. Just tell us the truth and everything will be fine.
And Uvaldo goes, all right, I'll confess. I'll tell you the truth. It wasn't me. And he just starts laughing in their face. And they just go, God damn it, Uvaldo, get the fuck out of here. And we all ended up getting suspended for a good week. So as bad as we were, I guess unfortunately for whoever put us all in that class, which there's only one person that could have. I'll get to him later. We did not. We did not achieve David quitting. I think David left probably a year or two afterwards to go do something else. I think he actually went to become a missionary, if I remember correctly, but I don't know. With his wife, but yeah, I'm not sure. Anyways, after that, the third time we were all in the same class was this guy named Father Smith. And Father Smith was this dude, old guy, but he was there since the school was around. The school had been around, I think, already by like 50 years, 40 something years, something like that. And the dude was also a dude that would assign you classes. Like there, as much as there was technology and everything, this was a dude who would assign you classes, and he'd spend the whole summer just like organizing everyone's classes and everything. So more than likely, this was the same dude who put us all in the same class for David, and all the same class for Chasen. And although we don't know, although I think probably the Chasen was an accident, we knew that the David, all of us being in David's class, wasn't. And I know he had his own personal beef with David and the way he taught, especially that he was teaching world religion. So that was something that it was obvious. And the third time we were all in the same class was Bible class, which he happened to teach. And it was one of the classes in our last semester of senior year. And when we all had that class and we all saw each other, and we all saw Father Smith was our teacher, as we realized what they did with David, we now realize what he was going to do to us. And you could tell that he was just going to be a hard ass and just try to fail us all. Because Bible class isn't a class that goes into summer school. If you fail, no, you got to do it the next year. So basically, he's looking to fail us all and make us repeat our senior year. That we knew that from the start, because he was no nonsense from the start, and he was just had no problem. It wasn't even detentions. He had no problem just giving us Saturday detentions or suspensions, and he had pull since he's been there forever. So it was one of those classes where we were all just like, fuck, this guy's after us. And so the final came around, and his finals was known to be one of the toughest finals around, because it wasn't multiple choice. It wasn't a Scantron multiple choice test, or a yes or no, or a fill in the blank, or none of that. No, these were like theoretical questions that you had to answer in sentences, and then at the end there was like a big essay that you had to write. And this is about the fucking Bible. Like, I've read the Bible who knows how many times in my life. Plenty of times, because I went to Catholic school throughout from kindergarten to senior year. That Bible's been in my face all the time. And even a Bible thumper would read this, would look at this test and still find it hard. And we all knew it. And we all knew it was going to be hard. So we were all trying to figure out already, man, what are we going to do? Being that you had the 10 usual suspects, obviously we all had our ways of cheating and our cheating methods for tests. I'm kind of going to, I'll let you guys in on a few of them now, at least the ones I can remember. But for instance, some of the cheating methods we would have would be, well, usually the easiest ones would be like, we'd always sit in the back, or try to sit in the back, and we'd usually try to have one of the smarter kids or one of the kids who at least paid attention, uh, to have them sit somewhere kind of in front of us where they could lift up their exam to make it look like they're reading it, or like make it look like they're stacking the papers together. And in the meantime, they'd hold while they're holding it up, we would be able to look at their test and kind of copy answers. That one was a simple one. Obviously, I'm sure a lot of other people probably did it. It's a it's a at least a two-person effort, and you got to have the teamwork there. But usually everyone was cool to help each other out, help everyone else out. Um, Another one was, well, you always had the cheat sheets and everything. One of the tricks I did was I would usually bring in like a big bandage, and I'd have it somewhere on my arm, and I say that I was trying to do some cross country and I scraped my arm or something, and I would just in the middle of the class just open up that bandage and just look at all the answers that I wrote. That was one of them. Another one, my favorite one, which was my personal one, was you really couldn't write. You really can't write on like your table, on your student desk table. I think everyone's always had the same kind of student desk table. At least the surface is usually like a wood surface, but kind of light. So what I would do, because most of these tests were in pencil anyways, so instead of writing it with my pencil, I would write it with the eraser, because you wouldn't be, if you walk by, you wouldn't be able to see it. But if you sit a certain position on your desk and you just kind of move to the right position with the reflection of the light, there's a certain glare or smear that stayed behind that you can kind of make things out. And I kind of made sure to kind of figure out my little language, or my little way of like having answers set up for that, and that's how I'd cheat, and it would work 100% of the time. I would just have to get to the class early and make sure that I write all the answers on the desk, and usually I'd have the answers because someone took the class the semester before, or maybe someone had the class the day before, or a few hours before, and I kind of knew everyone enough to where I'd be able to get the answers. And if not, I kind of knew where most of my teachers left their answer keys. So let's just say I took a peek every so often when I could, and that helped out as well. So that was my thing, but this test was no joke, and not the smearing of the table nor having someone sit in front of us or anything would help us out, because obviously all the answers had to be different. We couldn't repeat someone else's answer, and because these were all 2 or 3 sentences, and it couldn't be the same language either. So we all had met up before the exam, and we talked about it, and we said, look, we ended up getting 3 different sets of like notes on the parts of the Bible that he was going to quiz us on. And although we had the questions, we knew the questions, we couldn't answer them as everyone else did, because obviously they'd know you can't answer it word by word because he'd know we'd copied, or we know we cheated. And we all couldn't kind of say the same thing, because then he would also know what's up. So we kind of agreed, like, all right, you get this one wrong, I'll get that one wrong. Well, he knows we're not going to pass with all hundreds, so let's at least try to strive for B's and C's. That'll all get us to pass. You get this one. Like, we kind of divided it like that, at least the ones that met up to do this. And so we all had and then we also had this plan where we would go up to Father Smith and talk to him and distract him while we would pass the notes to each other. And some of us, we were keeping the notes like either behind our elbow, or between our crotch, or like in our hand, like wherever we could, to make sure he wouldn't catch us. And it somehow worked for all but 2 of us. And all I remember is my boy Ralph. Shout out to Ralph. I don't know if you made it this far into this one, but Ralph had his notes in between his crotch area, And Father Smith at one point is just walking around the whole the whole classroom, the whole aisles, trying to see if anyone's cheating or not, because he knows what's up. He knows that no way are we gonna pass this class. So he's just trying to figure out how we're gonna make it happen. And he walks by Ralph, and Ralph's too busy looking at his notes that he doesn't see Father Smith. And Father Smith looks at Ralph's looking down at his crotch. So Father Smith goes up to his table and looks underneath the desk to his to see what Ralph's looking at. Ralph notices Father Smith looking at him, and notices that he's looking at his crotch, and Ralph just goes, "Father Smith, how dare you!" And Father Smith just reaches into his crotch area and takes the cheat sheet notes out, and Ralph gets in trouble for that, obviously. The rest of us had already turned it in, and I think one other kid also, I think, got caught with notes. I think it was Herschel or maybe Che. I'm not sure, but someone else got caught with notes, and they got in trouble, and it was and we were all like, "Damn, they're not gonna. That's messed up," you know. They ended up graduating, I think, at the end, because, well, I don't know how. I don't know what became the exemption. Maybe they let them take the test again or something. But yeah, they ended up passing, and they ended up graduating. But yeah, that was pretty intense. And that was the whole part of The Usual Suspects and how we were assholes at the time. And I mean, there's plenty of other good high school stories, but that just makes me sound like all I did was high school. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. But it's interesting, at least when it came to Masters and Smith, it was all about theology, and it was all about just as much as you see those classes as just being so elective, so just unimportant. When it comes to what you want to study to become later on in life. Mind you, not for everyone. I think there was one kid who ended up, one smart kid in our school who, because of all these theology classes and everything, he ended up going to learn, he went to go study theology in Harvard, of all places. I don't know what he's doing now with that, but whatever. And I'm glad I had those classes to a certain extent, and not in the way they had it, because I don't need to be brainwashed over any sort of Bible or any sort of dogma. But at least it kind of gets you thinking about other stuff, which hopefully I'll be able to touch upon on other episodes when I'm in the mood to get a little theological and esoterical. I think one of the ways I compare it to is I like writing, as everyone should know. You know, I wanted to become a screenwriter and everything. And I remember one time I'm writing this story where as a writer I create characters. So the start of this story is me creating a being. And I write, this being is created out of nothing, and all of a sudden there's everything. And this being has the ability to know everything, has access to the knowledge of everything that ever was, is, and ever will be. And being that it was just created in its own existence, not that it would have anything, but it's very, it kind of makes you think, because it's also, you start thinking about infinity, so it questions a lot of that as well. But you create this being, and it has access to all this knowledge. So the first thing it's going to do is follow this knowledge, is want to access this knowledge and want to discover this knowledge. Why does it want to discover this knowledge? Because of curiosity. Because it's curious to understand who it is, what's going on, where am I, who am I, why, everything. And being curious is an emotion, is a feeling. And it's interesting to think that all beings then have, I would imagine, have that same question and that same thought once it's created or born or whatever. And it's interesting that the first thing that you access are feelings. That's the first emotion you're always gonna, the first action or the first experience you have is a feeling. And I could get a little bit more philosophical into this. I kind of love having those conversations. Usually, maybe if I'm under the influence of something, but I'll leave it at that. So I think those classes kind of help me out explore kind of themes like that, and hopefully I'll get into that topic in one of the future episodes. But for now, I think I'll leave it at that, because sometimes it actually kind of, to sometimes think so esoterical and theological and spiritual and everything, and philosophical especially, it scares me at times. It kind of freaks me out a bit when you even try to contemplate infinity. So I'll leave it at that for now. Anyways, thanks for listening. I'll try to get another episode as soon as possible, with or without a guest, but for sure expect one. And until then, just keep checking these out, and thanks for the support. Take care. Bye.